Chapter 18, Variation and Selection. First lesson, Variation. Don't forget to go back to the objectives after you're done studying to make sure that you covered the lesson properly. What's a population? A population is a group of organisms that have three sames. Same species, living in the same area at the same time. So when you see those three sames, this means that this is a population. What if it's different species, so it's not a population? Again, a population is a group of organisms of one species or same species living in the same area at the same time. Like, if I'm going to say the population of Egypt of humans, this means that humans, which are the same species, living in the same area, which is Egypt, at the same time, which is year 2026. So this is a population. What's variation then? Does having the same species or belonging to the same species mean that we are all exactly similar? Yes, we do have the same genes, but we have different alleles of those genes, or variations or forms of those genes. And this is what we call a variation. So variation, these are the differences between the individuals of the same species. As you see here in the picture, we have different skin color, different hair color, different genders, yet we are all of the same species. Are all variations the same? Actually, no. There are two types of variations: continuous variations and discontinuous variations. From the name, continuous means that we have a continuous range of phenotypes. Like what? You don't have specific groups, just like, for example, when we're talking about height. You don't have just groups, specific fixed groups of heights. You have a person with the height of 155 centimeters and another person with 155 and 1 millimeter and 2 millimeters and 3 millimeters. So this means that you have a continuous range between two extremes. Let's say that the minimum height of a population is 150 centimeters, while the maximum height is 200 centimeters. In between, you have a continuous range of this variation. While in the discontinuous variation, you have specific groups or categories. You can distinguish them. So, this means that the difference between continuous and discontinuous variation, or the first difference in their definition. Variation in which there is a continuous range of phenotypes between two extremes is a continuous variation, while a variation in which there are distinct categories of phenotypes with no intermediates is a discontinuous variation. What causes continuous variations? It's actually affected by two factors, by genes and also by the environment. If you look at weight, for example, it's affected by your rate of metabolism that's controlled by your genes, but it's also affected by the environment or the way you treat your body. If you eat too much calories, you will gain weight even if you have high metabolism due to, or high metabolic rate due to your genes. Discontinuous variations are affected only by your genes. For example, if your blood group is A, no matter which environment are you living in, your blood group will still be A. Examples again, like height or body mass, while in discontinuous variation, it's the blood type. If you look here, this is how we draw a continuous variation. You always draw it as a histogram, where you have the range making all the bars of the histogram close together, as you see here. While the distinct groups in the discontinuous variation will give you just a normal bar chart with the bars separated from each other with equal distances between them. Make sure when you draw a bar chart that you have equal width of the bars and equal distances between the bars. while when you're drawing a continuous variation or a histogram, you have equal width of the bars, but they have to be touching each other. Please remember this difference, especially when you're answering paper 6. Let's take more examples of the different types of variations. Here you have the absence or presence of horns in kettle. This is an example of discontinuous variation because you have two distinct groups, either having the horns or not having the horns. Actually, the dominant gene here in this case is having horns, while the hornless kettles will be the ones with the homozygous recessive gene. Okay, so what's mutation then? It is when there is a random change in a gene. What does this mean? We learned that genes are made of codons, which are nucleotides paired together, and 3 codons together will make a gene. So when there is something that changes in the code of the gene, changes the nucleotides and accordingly changes the other side and the codon together, this means that a new allele is formed. So the base pairing sequence of the DNA gets altered and also the phenotype will get changed. This is what we call a mutation. And it is the only source for a brand new characteristic to appear in a species. Without a gene mutation, you will have the same old alleles as they are. What causes a mutation, or what is the source, or what makes mutation happen? Being exposed too much to ionizing radiations, such as what? X-rays, gamma radiation, beta radiation, also the exposure to heavy metals too much, such as lead or mercury, can damage the bases of the DNA, which causes mutation. Some mutations are useful, as we will learn later, while some mutations are harmful, and some mutations don't have any effect at all. Let's answer some questions together. The graph shows the masses of 2 different types of tomatoes. What can you conclude from the graph? So if you look at the graph here you have the different types of tomatoes. What you can conclude from this graph is that type 1 tomatoes show continuous variation because it's drawn as a histogram. The range is close together and you have the bar chart touching each other, which is a histogram again. What is unlikely to be affected by the environment? Not affected by the environment, this makes it a discontinuous variation, so it's gonna be the blood group. What will cause the rate of mutation to increase? It's gonna be the increased exposure to ionizing radiation. This question is a little bit tricky. The bar chart shows the height of pea plants grown from 500 pea seeds. What variation do the plants show? So is it continuous variation or discontinuous variation? You know that height can be a range between two extremes. So you can say it is a continuous variation. Yet, here specifically in this example, you don't have all the range. You have specific groups of this range in the sample that's collected here. So now this specific outcome is both continuous variation and discontinuous variation. Let's answer this question too. The diagram shows a plant reproducing asexually by growing a plantlet from a runner. The leaves of the plantlet appear different to the leaves of the parent cell. So here you see the plantlet or the daughter plant is different from the parent plant, though it should be the same because this is asexual reproduction. So what must have happened here? A mutation, because in asexual reproduction, the offspring should be similar to the parent. So if you see any variation, This means that a mutation in the genes has happened. Okay. Figure 9.2 shows a group of male students. They are all of the same age. The students in figure 9.2 show continuous variation in some of their characteristics. State 3 characteristics in which these students show continuous variation. Okay, so the skin color, it's a range, hair color is a range, height, and weight. And most of the continuous variation, or actually all of them, are affected also by the environment. State one example of this continuous variation. You can mention any of those three. Gender, tongue rolling, blood type. These are fixed groups and they are not affected by the environment, only affected by genes. Thank you, and I hope this video helps you study.